Gentlemen students, yes. Gentlemen of the press, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. Mr. Vice Chancellor, sir, I will start my presentation by looking, discussing home economics in relation with nutrition, because these two courses are greatly misunderstood. I will then look at some of the misconceptions in nutrition and then discuss my humble contribution to the field of nutrition. Mr. Vice Chancellor, sir, home economics is a very broad course of study. It is primarily hinged on family, the dynamics of family, and it encompasses programs such as food and nutrition, textiles and clothing, home management, child development, marriage and family relations, among others. Undoubtedly, more than ever before, people are most concerned now about what nutrition is all about, what nutrition they can practice, what information they can actually adhere to and safely use. Mr. Vice Chancellor, sir, I'd like to take us through nutrition briefly so that at least I'll be able to debunk the fact that nutrition is not just all about cooking. Nutrition is the science that deals with food. It deals with the ingestion of food, the digestion of food, the transportation of food, assimilation, and then utilization of foods for the purpose of growth and development. The study of nutrition is primarily hinged on foods. Foods, because we know that nobody survives without adequate nutrition. Nutrition is a very complex subject because it draws its strength from basic and applied sciences such as molecular biology, biochemistry, chemistry, genetics, physics, anthropology, amongst others. Therefore, nutrition has a lot to do with the quality of food. That brings me then, what is food? Food, of course, is any substance that is eaten and simulated for the purpose of development, replacement of worn-out tissues, growth, and that, of course, is dense with nutrients. Nutrients are chemical substances that are indispensable to man's functioning because they provide energy, they serve as repair ingredients, also help to maintain body parts. Nutrients are either needed in large quantities, such as carbohydrates, proteins, fats, and water, and we will term these as micronutrients. Those that are needed in minute quantities are regarded as micronutrients, and these will be your vitamins and minerals. In addition, food contains other substances, some of them that actually prevent disease condition, such as your oxidants. There are those, however, that may hamper some of the bioavailability of some nutrients. And these ones may be phytochemicals, they may be anti-nutrients, and of course, there are also some that are, antioxidant. For nutrition food to be adequate, it must contain all nutrients needed. Mr. Vice Chancellor, sir, the problem here is that there is no magical food that contains all nutrients. Nutrients and foods must be combined. So why do we really need nutritious foods? When I teach basic nutrition, what I say to my students is that think of a machine that works 24/7. That machine is likely to break down. Parts of the machines are likely to wear out, and so needs replacement. If you look at the human body in that perception, you would of course realize why nutrients are needed, because we are constantly wearing and tearing our nutrients, and therefore they must be replaced. So for us to be in adequate health, we must be able to make good selection of foods in terms of their nutrient content. Therefore, what measures the status of all individuals in terms of health as it relates to nutrition is what we term as our nutritional status. So nutritional status can either be adequate or it can be inadequate. When it is adequate, we say the individual is in optimal health. When it is inadequate, we say the individual is suffering from malnutrition. Now, what are some of those causes and types of malnutrition that we have? Basically, the causes are lifestyle changes, consumption patterns of the individual, sometimes even disease conditions, or we might just be outright not knowledgeable about what nutrients or foods are. Therefore, the individual may actually suffer from malnutrition. The major types of malnutrition are two, on both sides of the pendulum. And then you find that either the individual is undernourished or the individual is overnourished. And that, of course, is the burden of nutrition that we bear. Because in a country like ours, Nigeria, even within the same community, you have those that are overfed and those that are underfed. It therefore implies, therefore, that for us to enjoy proper health, nutrition is very crucial. Mr. Vice Chancellor, sir, the health awareness and concerns of the populace have reached astronomical levels, where adults are now becoming nutritionists or they are becoming dietitians, prescribing different diets and their combination. The masses are constantly bombarded by nutrition information, with some claiming, conflicting nutrition messages, inflated claims, and even quackery abound in diet books, news reports, print and social media, as well as food labels. Majority of these marketers may not necessarily have scientific knowledge or background. There is no doubt that there are people seeking for nutrition miracle, while the remaining majority wants to know how best to take care of themselves. Everyone stampedes for a new miracle food or diet, often based on current news that such is good for health, followed almost immediately by news report that such food or diet is not true after all. And everyone drops and takes on the next craze. Mr. Vice Chancellor, sir, permit me to show this little clip, and I think this will anchor why the title of this study.
It clogs up your arteries. Eating just one egg can dramatically increase your chance of heart attack. Don't eat eggs. You're welcome. Godspeed.
It's those eggs. It's those eggs. Stop! Stop!
Yeah. You're wrong right there. Two types of cholesterol. There's good cholesterol and bad cholesterol, and eggs actually have both. So you eat eggs, but this is don't eat the egg yolk. So see what you got.
Yes, thank you.
That's me. Yeah, okay, so it turns out that the amount of cholesterol in food doesn't actually affect how much cholesterol ends up in your blood. The eggs are probably fine. In fact, you sort of don't even know what cholesterol is. What's the steak? You taste the steak!
Why?
Turns out red meat increases your chance of heart attack. You have to cut out red meat. So no steak!
Thank you.
Godspeed. We're rolling up the stick. It's a book. Man does not meant to eat bread. mean to really only be eating what our Paleolithic ancestors ate. So, therefore, no bread, no toast. How do you know what our Paleolithic ancestors ate? Well, we just have to guess. Right? And we don't have any way of knowing. Ignore everything I've said and exercise. Yeah. So you guys can probably use it. You've been sitting here for the last 35 years.
It's 5 minutes.
Right. Time. Well, Godspeed. Learn how to do that. Doesn't matter whether you exercise or what to eat. I'm sure I ruined you.
Mr. Vice Chancellor, sir, I'm sure you see the confusion that scientist brought to that family. One time no egg, the other time you can eat egg. Now it was steak, don't eat steak. Now it was the time for toast, don't eat toast. At the end of it all, he decided to eat egg. So no wonder it appears that there is nutrition information everywhere, yet there is little or no impact on nutrition practices and outcome. Are we truly confused by the numerous conflicting information? This undoubtedly creates frustration on the part of the consumer, leading to comments such as, scientists are confused. They do not know anything. The news media reporters, for instance, want to be the first to report new findings, even when scientists have not fully tested such, or in other cases, with outright lack of competence to interpret such complex scientific findings or principles. Even scientists themselves sometimes are overzealous and eager to break new grounds, and so will reveal findings when such are still undergoing peer reviews. Other claims arise from persons who now specialize in selling miracle drugs or supplements or herbs or myths. Mr. Vice Chancellor, sir, hence the inaugural title. If scientists don't know and are so confused, how can I, the consumer? Is it a case of too much information? I have in this inaugural lecture presentation brought in some known controversies and prepared answers guided by scientific report. These include, does bran lower blood cholesterol? Bran to us is the outer layer of every cereal, and it has characteristics cows or shafty texture. These, of course, include the pericarp, the testa, the aileron, layers. However, there is this strong belief that if you take bran, the popular one is the whole wheat that we use, that it lowers blood cholesterol. Yes, Mr. Vice Chancellor, there is some truth to that. However, don't leap quickly to say, yes, if you take whole wheat food, your blood cholesterol will reduce, because there are questions that are yet unanswered. For instance, what quantity of that intake can actually lower your blood cholesterol? What type can actually do that? And do people all react the same way to certain brands? If these questions are not answered, then of course we have not actually been able to situate the fact that one-on-one blood cholesterol levels can actually be reduced by the intake of bran. What we know, however, is that the reduction in the intake of saturated fat, which means fats that remain solid at room temperature, can actually aggravate your blood cholesterol levels. The next thing is, does sugar cause disease? And I'm sure all of you, one time or the other, must have said to someone, don't take too much sugar, otherwise you'll become diabetic. Of course, sugar actually comes from sugarcane or beets, and then of course it goes through some processing. There is no truth to this. The reason is that most foods that are high in sugar actually are high in cholesterol. And if you continue to consume these foods, the likelihood is that you will become chubby, you will become fat, you will become robust. Okay? And then we know that obesity actually is one of the risk factors in the development of type 2 diabetes. Therefore, one-on-one, we cannot claim that sugar causes diabetes. However, high caloric intake can lead to obesity, which can lead to type 2 diabetes. So, the other question we have is honey better than white sugar because it is natural? Bogus. Both are natural. The only thing is that sugar is processed, but comes from natural, food stuff too, sugar cane or sugar beets. Honey, however, is viscous and comes from plant nectar manufactured by bees. What we have spoon for spoon is that sugar has lower caloric content. Honey has higher caloric content. But don't jump yet, because in terms of glycemic index, which is the measure of how sugar is released upon the ingestion of a particular food, honey is much, much smaller. Which means actually, which means that honey has a lower glycemic index. But the take here is that if you continue to depend on honey, eventually, slow but sure, it is likely going to aggravate weight gain. So you don't win any. What you need here is moderation. Is artificial sweetener beneficial to man? Of course, to the diabetic, it is synthetic substitute, so they can still enjoy sweet foods without necessarily taking sugar, the culprit. However, what we find in drinks, those zero drinks that we all run to get, is that they tend to stimulate the appetite. And the second thing also is that the normal human being would say, if I take zero Coke, for instance, why don't I just add 2 more additional spoons of rice? And so what you are actually doing is, yes, you think you are winning, but indeed you are losing, because ultimately your appetites will increase, and of course you will take more food, which will lead to obesity and eventually will lead to non-communicable diseases. The other thing that I have here, Mr. Vice Chancellor, is intake of vitamin or mineral substitutes good? Vitamins and minerals, we know, are organic substances. They are either synthesized, chemically, or they are gotten from food. One thing, however, is that there are disease situations where it becomes very crucial that you must take vitamin or mineral. But it must not be used in the replacement of food. It can only be supplement and not replacement. Because don't be fooled by the fact that if you don't practice good nutrition, when you take multivite, it's going to make up for it. That is not true. It is not going to make up for it. So you need to take daily multivite and mineral, but as supplements and not substitutes. The one thing that we know that is becoming so popular is, where should fruits be eaten? Should it be eaten before or after meal? Which is right. Now, those who claim that it should not be eaten with meal actually tell you that it leads to fermentation, it leads to food rotting, and therefore would slow down digestion, and eventually you will become obese. But I tell you, whether it is taken with other foods or not, enzymes that break down food are specific. So whether you have a potpourri of foods, you have pounded yam, egusi soup, ogbono soup, rice, and it goes into, the enzymes will pick out meat and digest meat. They will pick out fat and digest fat. So whether your fruits come before or after, you have specific enzymes that digest them. So it is irrespective. Also, the idea of fermentation shouldn't come in, because the GI tract, especially the stomach, has a pH of 3.7, which is highly acidic on the pH scale. So no bacteria, at least a considerable amount of bacteria must have been destroyed, so they will have no propensity to reproduce for fermentation. So again, Mr. Vice Chancellor, sir, that is bogus. The other thing that we hear often is cold water and food intake. What is the best way? And the general thinking here is, if you take cold water, it congeals oil. And this oil will now lower or thin down your lumen, isn't it? But have you ever regurgitated and see how hot that is coming back out? Which simply means that the body temperature at 37 degrees centigrade and then the thermogenesis that takes place with feeding will never make cold water to remain cold. Another thing that we have is red meat bad for health? How many of you have demonized red meat? A lot of us here, isn't it? But I tell you, the only reason why red meat can be demonized is the fact that it is marbled with fat. And saturated fat is notorious for elevating your blood cholesterol. But if you have good choice of taking lean meat, avoid processed meat, if you must avoid red meat, take fish and chicken without the skin, you are good to go. And then, of course, there is still so much going on with red meat, whether it is bad or whether it is good, because of the complexity in the nutrition of red meat. And so, Mr. Vice Chancellor, sir, we are still grappling and dealing with what to do with red meat. And then the next one is eating just before bedtime fattening? Let me tell you, distinguished members or listeners here, it is not when you eat the food that matters, it is the food that you eat that matters. So for a lot of us, our timeline is 6 p.m. Anything you eat after 6 p.m. is poison. Really? That is bogus. Reason being that if you choose to enjoy meal past 6 p.m., take foods that are low in calories. Because we know generally we are more sedentary, and as it gets into the dark of the day, you begin to reduce your exercise. So if you choose to eat pounded yam, of course it's going to translate in a few weeks to adding to your size. But if you eat carrots, vegetables, of course, Mr. Vice Chancellor, we will have no problem. Now, is cholesterol in plant oils? And I see, especially with women, running to buy oil that doesn't have cholesterol. And those manufacturers have a way of getting you. Because you run to get this oil and it's boldly written, no cholesterol. Plant oils do not contain cholesterol. They contain cholesterol that is not used by human and not absorbable. And therefore, what you should be worried about is what is the quantity of saturation of that oil. Some of you go to buy oil and the person says to you, wait, let me heat it up before I pour it. Such oil is saturated and it becomes poison to the body. So most oils that remain liquid at room temperature are actually all good. There is no plant oil that contains cholesterol. Cholesterol is manufactured by you and I in the body. Mr. Vice Chancellor, sir, the new craze is coconut oil. It is the latest superfood endorsed by wellness bloggers. Hey, coconut oil contains 92% saturated fat. And so for those of you who think that the new miracle oil is coconut oil, rethink, because coconut oil is as good as any other oil that becomes solid at room temperature. So what we should concern ourselves with is, for any one of us that takes just 2 tablespoons of coconut oil, you would have taken all the oils you need for the day. So do not be fooled by the fact that people will tell you that coconut oil is the best oil. Again, it is also deficient in essential fatty acids. Essential fatty acid, we know, must be given to the body as from the outside and not manufactured from the inside. So what that simply means, therefore, is for those of you who preach and live by coconut oil, it is not the best oil. It is comparable to other saturated fats and oils. Now, another new one that is the craze is olive oil better than any other oil? Mr. Vice Chancellor, I'll tell you why that is so. Because those who are from the Mediterranean region of the world, their longevity is about 81 years. And if you look at Nigeria, at the best, it's 63 years. And so, who would want to associate with living longer? And so the new craze of olive oil, more expensive, better than the other oils? No, because as long as that oil doesn't contain high levels of saturation, it is just as good as olive oil. If anything, the virgin olive oil can be a little bit or slightly better than the ordinary oil. But outside that, your corn oil, safflower oil, flour oil, soybean oil is equally as good as your olive oil. Now, the most demonized food, are eggs, poor eggs. Eggs, for those of you who are nutritionists, actually know that it is our reference protein, which means all proteins measure up to meet up with eggs. So it is the best source of protein. However, that doesn't say that it does not contain cholesterol. It contains cholesterol in the yolk, about 211 milligrams per 1 medium egg. But I'll tell you, the body has a compensatory effect. If you take eggs, the cholesterol that is manufactured in the body is reduced to compensate for what you have taken. So it is not the cholesterol intake that elevates your blood cholesterol. What elevates your blood cholesterol are those items you give to the body to manufacture cholesterol. And that, of course, is either trans fat or saturated fat. So for the average man and woman, 1 egg per day is okay. But if you have any of those cardiovascular issues, you are advisable to limit your intake of eggs. Mr. Vice Chancellor, for those of us who are on the chubby or robust side, ketogenic diet has become the magic. Everyone wants to practice ketogenic diet. What does ketogenic diet do? It allows you to include all types of oils, non-restricting. It allows you to use all kinds of proteins, non-restricting. However, it says carbohydrate is a no-no. Now, carbohydrates are basically used for the manufacture of energy for humans, especially the brain cells. Now, when fat is now replaced or used in the replacement of carbohydrate, what happens is ketosis or keto bodies are now being used instead of And so this diet is used in the management of epilepsy. So epileptic candidates will actually benefit from this because the number and times of seizures becomes, quite reduced. In the process of doing this, weight loss actually, sets in. And so we are all very, very happy to go into ketogenic diet because at the end of it, the immediate benefit is that you have lost some weight. However, Mr. Vice Chancellor, sir, long-term implications are yet not known. And so it might be detrimental to us, but that is being studied. A second thing is that the food becomes monotonous. So you eat it every day in and out, and people become sick and tired of the monotony. And so it is not a long sustaining diet. And then also the fact that, we do not actually know what the effects are in terms of long term. So gram for gram also, meat is relatively more expensive than cereal. So why not use the cereal to get energy and reduce your quantity? So Mr. Vice Chancellor, sir, we also find that even when ketogenic diet is used, there are implications, health implications, with the ketogenic diet. Mr. Vice Chancellor, sir, having looked at some of these controversies in nutrition, it is likely that the general belief is, why don't we just eat the way our forefathers eat and let it be? Yes, it is true that the society is dynamic, but the body has not changed in the utilization of food. But what we must remind ourselves also is that our forefathers roamed, they walked, they trekked. Today you and I are so sedentary, and also we depend extensively on technological processed food. So it is not going to be as simple as A, B, and C, because unless we change our ways, those diets may not be beneficial to us. Mr. Vice Chancellor, sir, I think I must have been able to debunk the belief that nutrition is all about cooking, but that it is more complex. Mr. Vice Chancellor, sir, due to the too much volume, velocity, and complexity of information on nutrition, some colleagues and myself carried out the following studies, which we believe undoubtedly have influence on nutritional belief and practices. Salami et al. 2017 studied the influence of media information on the perceived benefits of nutrition on health by 120 residents of Abia State, Nigeria. Salami, Busari, and Ihenseken 2017 investigated influence of media information on nutrition practices of 371 residents of Shomolu local government area of Lagos State. Salami and Ihenseken 2017 studied sources of information and nutritional practices of 250 adult residents in Nigeria. Salami and Ihenseken 2017 studied media information on nutrition and perceived benefits by 530 adults living in Benin metropolis. Salami Ihenseken 2017 assessed the influence of media on weight concerns, control, and perception of body types by 510 University of Benin female students. The findings, some of the parameters had commonality in the sources of information, family and friends, and social media topping. The most sought information were for preventive diseases and weight loss regimen. Obesity, hypertension, and arthritis, in that order, were common disease states. Food security. It is interesting to note that while nutrition controversies thrive, food accessibility continues to be a challenge. Food security is a universal access of every citizen to have regular and enough food to meet his or her nutritional requirements for a healthy, active, and productive life. However, there is evidence of the double burden of malnutrition, with visible ravages of hunger amongst plenty and very well-fed few. Uko Avioma and Salami, 1999, research on maintaining household food security in Nigeria while sustainable democracy, through sustainable democracy. The study advanced that food security has eluded the achievement of several governments in the past, because even when emphasis was placed on the production of food, the same intensity was not applied to processing and preservation. The masses had little or no nutrition education. Wrong choices of food, low purchasing power, and large-sized families were contributing factors. Others included monotony of meals, mobility, and wrong snacking. In another study by Uko Avioma and Salami, 2003, investigated family nutrition and household food security, implication for nutrition education. The contributing factor to food insecurity were lack of time for meal preparation and use of unsupervised house helps. By Salami and Uko Avioma in 2004, in a study on poverty, hunger, and food insecurity, with focus on the strategies for curbing the challenges. These strategies were developed to address issues of poor income distribution, poverty, explosive population growth, slow economic growth, urbanization, government inconsistent policies, sporadic droughts, armed conflicts, social unrest, food shortages, and poor storage facilities, amongst others. The study concluded that Nigerians are not food secure, and so strategies preferred were likely to reduce the intensity. Nutrition and health. Nutrition is a major contributor to health. Therefore, the choice of a diet profoundly influences long-term health prospects. Salami and Uko Avioma, 2003, reviewed the development of self-image concept in the management of obese respondents. The study reported that although there were established health issues associated with obesity, psychological problems including poor self-image and low self-esteem were the greatest concern of the respondents. In the study, strategies were developed to increase self-image and esteem, such as the use of positive thoughts and behavior while embarking on lasting short-term management strategy. Salami and Umba, 2000, reviewed the incidence of HIV, the multidimensional aspects of the disease, and its challenges to contemporary nutritionists. The study emphasized the challenges of nutrient fortification for the deteriorated immune system. Salami and Wamba, 2005, in a review on diet and post-menopausal symptoms, revealed that aging is a biological process which may differ from one person to the other. The review showed that cutting down on the intake of fatty foods, increasing fruits and vegetables, in addition to engaging in long walks, reduced the symptoms associated with menopause. Salami and Umba, 2002, studied the social impacts needed to improve on the nutritional status of female child, with special reference to genital mutilation and its implication for nutrition. This practice, yes, has been frowned at because of its obvious adverse effects, which the individual may encounter months and years after. The paper examined the health, economic, and sociocultural indices. Most girls who were not well nourished before had further nutrition implications, such as low protein for healing purposes and loss of blood, which possibly contributed to anemia. Food rich in protein, mineral, vegetables, and fruits were advised to be given with adequate enlightenment. Salami et al. 2006 studied mid-age spread among Nigerian women and the role of nutrition and exercise. The main findings show that this phenomenon Something went wrong. I'm so sorry. Yeah, I think. Salami about 2014 studied the prevalence of obesity among 600 residents in Benin City metropolis. 33% of such individuals aged 21 to 30 years suffered from moderate obesity, while majority in their 30s to 50 plus age bracket suffered from severe obesity. Excessive consumption of starchy and fatty foods were suggested to be contributory. Wamba, Salami, and Igminaduwa 2016 investigated obesity and causes and types of management strategies employed by 300 adults residents in Benin City metropolis. The most causes of obesity in that rank, first was the quality of life, followed by genetics, and then lack of exercise. In terms of weight management, exercise was the most adhered management strategy. Factors influencing weight gain, most of them thought that education was a major factor, followed by health status. In terms of nutrition knowledge, the high vulnerability to diverse nutritional claims may be related to the basic nutrition knowledge of citizens. Wamba and Salami 2012 conducted a study on the nutrition knowledge of diabetic patients attending University of Benin Teaching Hospital. A total of 100 patients were sampled, and although most of them were educated and ranged between 42 and 52 years of age, they lacked basic nutrition knowledge. Udo and Salami, 1999, investigated the nutritional knowledge of senior students secondary schools in Anambra State. The study revealed that students had good knowledge of nutrition, and this was positively influenced by education level of their parents, although location and gender had no influence. Salami and Medici 2012, in their study on the influence of nutrition knowledge on anthropometric indices of colleges of education students in Anambra and Enugu states, revealed that the knowledge of nutrition influenced the BMI, body mass index of the students, with a tendency to have normal BMI compared to their counterparts. Salami et al. 1988, looking at food practices and nutrition outlook, studied the physiological characteristics and sensory evaluation of composite bread made from sorghum, cassava starch, and soya flour, compared to bread from 100% wheat. The results showed increase in nutrient content of the different bread mixes. However, the most influencing factor to the continuation of the development of this bread was the poor organoleptic rating of the composite products. Salami et al. 1989 studied quality of student meals and food preference of 500 students at the University of Maiduguri. The results of the study showed that although most of the meals were comparably high in nutrients, the level of protein and total energy were rather inadequate. The most significant factors that influenced students' food choice pattern were culture, costs, and appearance, with no reference to nutrient content. Salami et al. 2017 investigated the perceived dietary pattern and existing non-communicable disease among 250 people living in Ego and Ovia Northeast local government areas of Edo State. The findings showed that respondents' source of information was mostly health talks, and they had good nutrition knowledge. Hypertension and obesity were the most prevalent non-communicable diseases among the respondents. Their dietary pattern hinged mostly on high caloric foods from carbohydrates and fat, which may have significantly influenced their disease state. Salami and colleagues 2003 studied the food consumption practices of 100 households in Benin City, an implication for the nutritionists. The study revealed that food intake was constrained by high price, low income, lack of variety, and lack of time to cook and eat properly. The highest skipped meal was breakfast. Salami Iyere 2004 study strategy for providing the school lunch program for primary school children. The paper reported problems that militated against this program being sustained by government as improper administration, the cost, lack of proper statistics on target population, poor records and quality control. The study recommended the use of highly nutrient-dense biscuits, the involvement of PTA, and adequate nutrition education. Salami and Wamba 2002 studied the impact of home economics on the anthropometric measurements of junior secondary school students. There were no significant differences in the anthropometric measurements of home economics students and non-home economics students, as well as by gender. Socioeconomic background of the students appeared to have influenced the teens' weight. Avioma and Salami 2003 investigated restructuring the education curriculum in Nigeria for effective sustainable breastfeeding beyond the 21st century. Although breast milk has been established as the best food for human babies, mothers still did not embrace the practice. The study therefore recommended aggressive public enlightenment, since education continues to be a major factor for attitudinal change. Imuetinyan and Salami 2017 studied the influence of nutrition knowledge on the food consumption pattern of 425 adolescents in Ikobawaka local government area of Edo State. The study showed that although the adolescents had basic nutrition knowledge, they had poor food consumption pattern. They adequately consumed food from cereal and grains, confectionaries, roots, starchy and tuber groups, but inadequately consumed food from fruits, vegetables, milk, and milk products. Imuetinyan, Wamba and Salami 2017 studied frequency of consumption of fruits and vegetables amongst 1,348 adult residents in Oredo local government area of Edo State. Results showed that banana was the most common fruit consumed, followed by pawpaw and orange, while okra was the most consumed vegetable, followed by garden egg and tomatoes. About 53% consumed vegetable daily, contrary to 10% for fruits. Availability, taste, and attractiveness were factors that determined their choices. The consumption pattern was low in fruits and was fair in vegetables. Mr. Vice Chancellor, sir, in the past 45 or 50 minutes, we have listened to this inaugural lecture. I would like to acknowledge a few persons here present. But if I had to do for everyone here, I am sure we will not live here for the next 1 week. So permit me, Mr. Vice Chancellor, sir, to limit this to just my family members. So my dear Mr. Vice Chancellor, Professor F.F. Orumensi, FNSE, and his wonderful team, I am indebted. Thank you, sir, for granting me the opportunity to deliver this inaugural lecture. You created a very friendly and conducive environment for me to work as a dean. Your doors were and still remain wide open to me. I can never forget the Vice Chancellor's kind description of me as the Dean of Deans, and my pet name, Iyima. Thank you, sir. I'd like to acknowledge the immense contributions of Professor O.G. Oshodin, JP, the immediate past Vice Chancellor, for the numerous elevations that I have enjoyed in the University of Benin. He has continued to encourage me, even when I sometimes get weary. I cherish you for your kindness, selflessness, and fatherly love. I also would sincerely like to thank Chief John Odige Oyego, the immediate past APC National Chairman, a true gentleman indeed. Your association has allowed me to excel in my God-chosen abilities. To my darling children, whose love I can never qualify or quantify, Barbara, Charlotte Paula, Aito Ariagmo, Amenawo, and my son-in-law, Allen. To my little angels, grandchildren, Kayode, Leila, Owen, and Delani. Danma loves you dearly. I love you all for so much joy you bring to me always. To the memories of my darling daughter, late Miss Ososeri Abiyayiwa Beatrice Salami, Osas, as we all fondly called you. Your smile was genuine and infectious. Your giggle was distinct, clear and loud. One thing that stood out was your unconditional love, which you gave and gave without willing to take back. Maybe because you knew your journey here was going to be very short, but it was worthwhile and will remain memorable. Your goodbye remains sudden with no explanation. I wish to appreciate my siblings, Edith, Patience, Ben, Blessing, Joy, Matthew, and their families. You complete my being. To my numerous cousin, Osara Esukma, my favorite, like we call ourselves. Osato Adams, Edosa Adams, Dr. Sam Okoro, Imaria Osawaro, Tinya, my little Tinya Egwavon, Ebiwa Obajaro, and too many others. I love you dearly. To my roots, the Emovans, how can I thank you all enough? Thank you for your prayers. You are and will remain my pillar and strength. Especially to Daddy Professor Iye Emovon, Iye Princess Prof. Mrs. A. Emovon, and Imuetinyan, Madam Ehizoge Emovon, and others. Thank you all for being there always for me. To my lovely parents of blessed memory, Mr. Idemudia Benjamin Emovon and Mrs. Alice Amariagma Emovon, my most elegant mama. You will forever be cherished for starting this journey. It is a pity that both of you are not physically present. To my mother's siblings, my one and only big mommy, Mrs. Mabel Adams, Auntie Felicia, and Uncle Dan Ubebe, I love you and your family dearly. To the Salami family, thank you for the good memories we continue to share. Thank you, Professor Charles Gabriel F. Salami, for the lovely children we share and for being part of my life's journey. Mr. Vice Chancellor, sir, controversies and information and recommendations will continue to evolve as long as nutrition science unfolds. Truly, if the scientists don't know, how can I? Is it a case of too much information? In spite of all, the surest way of ensuring adequate nutrition is confidently building diets around the unchanging foundation principles of nutrient adequacy, balance, calorie control, moderation, and variety. Let me end the session with the quote, "Let food be thy medicine and medicine be thy food. He who does not know food, how can he understand the diseases of man?" My recommendation in the past 1 hour or thereabout, we have looked at if scientists don't know, how can I know? Is it a case of too much information? As a topical issue. In view of this, the following recommendations are put forward. 1, there is the need for nutritional education to be provided to all health providers, especially physicians, by nutritionists. There is the need for nutritionists to educate people not to demonize foods, since dietary culprits change from time to time. Knowing good and bad fats, high and low glycemic loads, carbohydrates are crucial. Consumers should emphasize less use of sweetened beverages, refined, processed, manufactured, fast foods, high glycemic foods, polyunsaturated vegetable oils, and sugars. These are chief drivers of obesity and type 2 diabetes. Healthy practices must emphasize increased consumption of fruits and vegetables, herbs, and spices. The use of dietary supplements should not be substituted for whole foods. Eat all meals daily in moderate food quantities and involve in exercise. Mr. Vice Chancellor and my audience, thank you for listening.
please come on stage as the Vice Chancellor decorates the inaugural lecture. Please, cameramen, you are not allowed to climb. Remain there. Thank you very much. In no particular order, we want to recognize each and every one of us seated here. You'll agree with me that if I choose to run through the list before me, it will be longer than the inaugural lecture. And you are going to bear with me if I call somebody's name and the person is sitting by you and I refuse to call your name. It's not deliberate. Just assume that that person is representing you. Mr. Vice Chancellor, sir, permit me to welcome His Excellency, the Executive Governor of Ondo State, Governor Olarotimi Akeredolu. He is here ably represented by Dr. Olawumi Ilaodu, Special Advisor to the Governor on Education. Your Excellency, we want to welcome you. We also want to welcome the Honorable Minister for State Health, Dr. Osage Eanire. He is here ably represented by the CMD Ira Specialist Teaching Hospital, Professor Silvanus Okobeni. We want to welcome you. May I quickly welcome and recognize the presence of the immediate past Vice Chancellor of our great university, the one Professor FFO we refer to as Univest, the immediate past Vice Chancellor of the University of Benin, Professor Oji Oshodi. We want to welcome you, sir. May I also recognize the presence of Emeritus Professor and Professor Mrs. Tioke Audu. We want to welcome you. Recognize and welcome Emeritus Professor Raymond Elao and the wife. Mr. Vice Chancellor, sir, may I recognize the presence of the President of the Nigeria Energy Society, National Energy Society, and he is the Vice Chancellor, Imuetinyan University, Professor Lawrence Ikechukwu Ezemoye. may I welcome the Vice Chancellor of the Tayo Akpata University of Education, His Royal Highness Professor S.E. Adua Ogiegba. He is always very proud of his community, Obeson. He says that's the only place where they don't sell land twice. Thank you very much. Mr. Vice Chancellor, sir, he is here seated. Director of the Institute of Management and Technology, Hussein, Professor Abiodun Falodun. Seated is Emeritus Professor and Professor Mrs. Aro Ofuebu. We also want to recognize the presence of Prince F. Izedom. He is a professor in his own right. I also want to recognize the presence of the Chief Procurement Officer, NEPA, Ondo City, K.O. Ibrahim. We want to welcome you. We also welcome Dr. Oyekon Okpeyemi, Ed Research and Development Department, NEPA. We want to welcome you. I also want to welcome Araji Ladi Oreneye, former MD Data Sciences Nigeria Limited, past President Nigerian Computer Society. We want to welcome you. Permit me to quickly welcome Professor and Mrs. Ege. We want to welcome you. We recognize your presence very seriously. Dr. Adebisi Moses. We also want to welcome you from NEPA. We welcome you. I also want to recognize Professor E.E. Uko Aviomo. We welcome you. We recognize the H.O.D. Economist at the Yemi College of Education, Mrs. Abigail Oluwa Bamibe. We want to welcome you. We recognize the presence of Mrs. Esther Bucket. We want to welcome you from Abuja. We recognize you, ma. We welcome you. Sir Barrister Peter Owen Anderson, Chairman Owen Oil and Gas. Sir, we want to welcome you. Thank you very much for coming around. We recognize the presence of Dr. Mrs. C. Olarewaju of the Department of Home Economics at the Yemi College of Education, Ondo State. We want to welcome you. Sir Ogbede Iyama, member Benin Forum, we welcome you, sir. Thank you for coming around. Professor Mrs. B. Niloba of our AEB department, we welcome you, ma'am. Dr. Bazwaye, we welcome you. Permit me to also welcome specially our very own, the former bossa of the University of Benin, Chief Bazwaye. We want to welcome you, sir. The Olia of Benin is here, Chief Olia. We want to welcome you, sir. The Emovons, we welcome you. We recognize you. The family of Salami, the family of Emovon, we welcome you specially. We also recognize the presence of Professor Oyaziwo Aluede, Director of Quality Assurance at Brosali University. We welcome you. We recognize the presence of Professor Patricia Umba, President of Home Economics Council of Nigeria, and also Vice President, International Federation of Home Economics. Ma, you are most welcome. Thank you very much. We also want to welcome Lekon Ewela, MD CEO Ultimate Health. We want to welcome you, sir. You are indeed welcome. We welcome His Imperial Majesty, His Royal Highness Professor Dikin Sunday Adeji Mola Amusheron, we want to welcome you, sir. The KBC of Abeoland, we welcome you, sir. May I recognize the Registrar and Chief Executive Officer of NAPTEB, Professor Ifoma Isiogu Abinibe, we welcome you, ma'am. Former Vice Chancellor Ambrose Ali University is seated. Please permit me to welcome Professor Dennis Agbolao, FAS. Professor Polika N. Okafor from Michael Okpara University of Agriculture, Modike, we welcome you. Former Registrar of the University of Benin, Mrs. Obogodo, we want to welcome you. Permit me to recognize the following groups. The Baptist High School Old Students Association, wherever you are seated, we want to welcome you. Edo Forum of Patriots Incorporated, we welcome you. Otadolo Nedo, we welcome you. Benin Forum, we welcome you. Obahaido, we welcome you. Men Achievers Club, we welcome you. We welcome the Uncle Olayele. Uncle Olayele, we want to welcome you, sir. Thank you very much for coming around. Like I said earlier, the list before me is endless. Wherever you are seated, know that you are highly recognized. Professor Okoya is seated here. We want to thank you for coming around. Professor Wolf, let me tell him that I saw him. Professor Mrs. Osage is seated. She's seated there. We recognize her presence. The list of professors from education faculty is endless. Professor Mrs. Ogono, my supervisor, she did here. Thank you very much. We recognize our professors. Immediately after this section, other introductions will continue. The Director of Physical Planning, Architect Ifisemodio, said I should continue my introduction at the Indoor Sports Hall. The inaugural lecturer is taking everybody there for a sumptuous refreshment, not for students. Why are you protesting? The only problem we have in Nigeria, when they try to make life easy for you, do you know where your own is? So why not be patient? Captain Osa, we want to welcome you. We recognize your presence. We thank you for coming around. For our students, immediately after the closing formalities, we shall let you know where you are supposed to be. All our guests, you go to the Indoor Sports Hall for a wonderful refreshment. The introduction will continue from there. Prince, Professor, and the Prophet Adeyemi, please help me tell Professor Sunde and Professor Obe that I saw the whole of you. Thank you very much for coming around. May we please rise. Uniben Anta. second stanza of the national anthem. Chancellor leads the procession out of the auditorium.